Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. Please note all attendees will be muted throughout this webinar. To ask any questions, please use the Q&A tool in the bottom right corner. If you close your confirmation box, it will result in you losing audio. You will not be able to view other attendees on this webinar, and please note this webinar will be recorded. I'm now going to hand over to Rohit from SAP, and he can kick this webinar off.
Thanks, Jacob. Let me share my screen. And I'll go full screen. Let me know when you can share my screen. See my screen?
Yep, I can see that, Rohit.
Okay, brilliant. So thank you, guys. Thank you for attending this session. Very quickly, what items are we going to cover today? So we're going to talk about the usual reporting landscape we see. We'll be here to talk about analytics and reporting specifically to SAP Business One. But I will cover from experience what we see about people's reporting landscape. Then I want to talk about how do we see this journey progressing for businesses? Where do they start? Where are they midway? Where do they reach endpoint? And what is this holy grail of having a scalable solution? We're going to talk a little bit about that towards the end, where I'll talk about why it's just not an analytics tool, but a lot more, and hopefully that'll come across after we cover the first 2 points. I also have a demonstration, but I'm only going to use the product in context of what I'm trying to achieve here, and that is to give you insight, an idea into what does an actual reporting, scalable reporting landscape looks like. And finally, why is SAP a scalable solution? So let's start. So what does a usual reporting landscape we come across? This is the situation we see quite a lot, where the data is either spread over multiple systems. So it could be ERP, like your SAP Business One, or other systems. You know, you have a finance, a CRM, an ERP, an HR, payroll, Excel sheets because you're doing budgeting and planning there, and so on and so forth. So it's like spread over multiple places. And generally what people tend to do is either bring it out into Excel or bring it out into a BI tool and try and build some reports. That's the common, most common things we see around, and Excel is probably the most popular one we come across a lot. But why is this a problem? Why isn't this? Well, this is a reporting landscape. You know, you've got multiple systems. You've got, well, in fact, here you have two tools. What is the problem here? Why is this an issue? Like quite a few things. The first one is the data is fundamentally in silos, and the reporting is done with that data in silos. So you have SAP Business One. You bring data, bring certain tables or a trial balance for the finance team into Excel. They report and build a report on there. They want to then, and you have a CRM system with a sales team, and they want to report on, you know, how their leads and activities and opportunities are moving along in the process. But there is this missing link between the two, where what if you wanted to do cross-functional reporting? And this comes very often. People outgrow the normal conventional reports very, very quickly, and it's all about how do I combine this data and build a report. And it's not so much combination of data. It's more around, I want to see the full data journey. It's quite common, especially, I mean, as an example, I'll give an example of our company itself, and we've been going through this process of internal reporting on sales and marketing. And it's been a very challenging, yes, but a very interesting exercise where we've realized individually as well how important it is to get the whole journey from start to finish, from the point of somebody actually interacting with us to becoming a customer. What does that journey look like? What does that time spent look with that prospect or customer look like? And what's the valuation against that? And how are we building those journeys? How do we scale those journeys, and so on and so forth? So data being in silos and reporting done on silos, in silos rather, affects, is well, obviously not great and doesn't give you the full picture, will never give you the full picture. With that siloed information, the other problem that comes in, and which becomes even bigger, and again, an exercise we've gone through the last 6-9 months, and the moment we lost the trust in that data, the moment we realized we had 3 different spreadsheets and all 3 actually gave us different numbers on the leads created per month, we just lost trust. And once you lose trust in your data, that is it. No BI tool, no reporting tool, no Excel, not even SAP will be able to justify that report for you. And you have to go back to building that trust. So that data integrity kind of ends up becoming far, far bigger in a scalable reporting landscape than just the report itself. And then the last part is the journey part, and the traceability of that journey that I was talking about is how do you track back from a report, be it for one function or multiple functions, be it data coming from one source or multiple source, be it a cross-functional report or whatnot. How do you track back from that report to the actual source of the data and actually check whether the data that you've got from the transaction system or transaction systems, so be it a CRM, ERP, together reporting or cross-functional, has it used the right tables? Has it used the right attributes, the measures, the dimensions? Can you trust the measures and dimensions being created? I mean, one classic thing that keeps coming up, and it's actually not funny anymore, where we go to businesses and we ask them, how do you calculate your gross margin? Or how do you calculate your gross profit? And you'll be surprised, but more often than not, you get more than one number. Quite often, sometimes, you even get, it's a bit like finger in the air from the experience we've had in the industry and the work we're doing with the business, but we are not 100% sure this is the right thing. And clearly, in those situations, you don't have a reporting, you don't have a scalable reporting landscape. You clearly don't have a landscape where you can trust what is coming out. So that's the usual things we see in today's market with businesses. Now, if I follow that up from how do we see this journey? How do we see this beginning of this journey, the middle and the end of this journey? And how do you reach that scalable point? So usually, stage one of everything with reporting is, let's report on Excel. And I love Excel. It is a great tool. I can do whatever I want, but there is a problem with Excel as well. So what are we trying to do here, or how are we trying to do it? Essentially, you export your data from your individual applications into Excel and build reports on top of that. Simple extract, export, CSV, Excel, build your normal reports, with macros and so on and so forth. And there you have it. You have your full-blown monthly report, management report, and so on and so forth. And to be fair, people can become very, very clever with Excel, with scheduling data to come in and the report to run and produce an output. So what is the problem here? Remember I said, I love Excel, I can do whatever I want. Well, therein actually lies the problem. I can do whatever I want. And that's a governance issue. Could be a data integrity issue as well. Should I be allowed to do whatever I want with the data? Is the report I'm producing, is anyone checking? Is the business checking that the report I've built is traceable back to the actual source of information, and the actual source of information I've used is correct? And we're talking about a scalable reporting landscape. Excel is definitely not a scalable reporting landscape. Why? Generally, the knowledge is with one or two people who are heavily involved, even sometimes to build the simplest of reports. I was recently at a business that was a manufacturing business, and they had a management pack, and I had one of the reporting, his right-hand man basically in the room, and he said it took me 2-3 years to build this report, and it was a massive 30 tabs Excel report with macros and this and that. I mean, pretty sophisticated stuff. And he was like, it takes me 20 minutes to run this report. But the problem was they only ran it once a month. So the remaining 28, 29, 30 days of the month, they didn't know what's happening with the business. And that's why this is not a scalable solution. So knowledge with one or two people, too cumbersome to manage. One of the key things with scalability, which always comes across when you have, lots of macros, lots of calculations and so on, suddenly response times for the report to load, it just keeps taking longer. Sometimes it crashes as well. Sometimes if you have more than a month's data or a quarter's data or a year's data, suddenly it will not be able to produce. The template is correct. The report should carry the data, but it's just foundationally, technically, it just does not work. And the key for me here is, apart from all the above reasons, is it is a people-driven process. And you've probably seen it in your ERP world as well, but any process that works more on or puts a lot more onus on people rather than the process, the tools that can help the people to do the work is never scalable. Because the only way it scales is you hire more people. So the only way this business could scale is have that individual and a few others with him if they wanted more reports to be built, more ad hoc reports to be built, and so on and so forth. So usually this is the first stage of it. Let's start with Excel. Let's report using Excel. And to be fair, for a lot of businesses, Excel does work. But what happens when they outgrow Excel? What's that next stage 2? So stage 2 is, let's implement a flashy BI tool. This is an intelligence tool. And I'll put some options out there. Lumira, Analytics Cloud, Power BI. Power BI is quite popular nowadays. And solve our reporting. This magic wand that'll solve everything, the troubles I'm facing. So what happens? How do you actually build these reports? How do you prepare these reports? So there are one or two ways. One is you either export it. I'm going back to Excel. So export it into Excel, prepare that data, massage that data, and then upload it into the BI tool. Unfortunately, my BI tool doesn't work directly on it. Or if it does work directly, then you directly query the data and you bring it in and then you report. Still a few problems. But for some businesses, when you grow past the Excel phase, you go to a BI tool phase, it could work. It really comes down to what type of reports you want. And this is where it is key to understand. If it's simple reporting, sales by region or sales by salespeople and so on and so forth. I mean, to a large extent, a lot of these BI tools will be able to produce that with some amount of preparation. You always have to remember that you need to prepare the data. The onus is on you. That's where lies the problem here. But you need to prepare the data. And it fundamentally depends on what complexity of reports are you producing. In our world, the way we see it, businesses, SME businesses, mid-market, turning over anywhere upwards from 10 million to 250, 500 million, and even in the billions. You outgrow these levels very, very quickly. The business requires you to make certain decisions, and the only way you are able to make those decisions is if you're able to combine information from either multiple sources or multiple functions or within the same software, multiple tables. So in the case of a BI tool, the problem comes down to preparation takes a lot of time. Because it's preparation, it's done by one or two people or a few within the team. It again falls down to it is a people-driven process, which essentially is not always scalable. Another thing, if the BI tool is able to do directly with the BI tool, depending on the volume of data, a lot of the times, load times, response times can be quite difficult when you do use this direct query approach. It's quite common. Power BI is something we work with often, and I'll explain to you later how that happens. But when you do these direct query stuff, it can become quite difficult at times with volumes of data or handling different complex types of data or cross-functional data if you wanted to. I'll give you an example. We're working today with a customer that's got arcade stores in the country. They've got about 300 arcade stores in the country. So these are adult gaming stores in the country, and all they want weekly is a P&L, a profit and loss statement per arcade store. That is one template, so 300 reports of the same template for each store, and one aggregated template which adds all of this information into one template. So essentially two templates with which you get 300 reports for individual stores and one aggregated report. So 301 reports, and they need to run it every week, Monday morning. They were able to build, and they had one of these BI reporting tools. They'd gone past Excel, and they were stage 2, BI reporting tools great, let's sort it out and see what happens. And what happened, unfortunately, was, and it was one of those direct query tools. And what happened was they could build a template of that report. When they actually ran the report, query tool, the reporting tool, which crashed. And they ran it for 6 months. And eventually, it ended up being an Excel sheet, which they built, and that's how they ran the report. So they had to actually go from stage to stage because the report wasn't good enough. So just because it is a BI tool, and unfortunately the market is such where they don't talk about this problem around the separation of data. Like I said, for some people it does work. Some it can work. It really depends on the complexity of the report coming after. Sometimes, you know, very simple reports it does work, but you will outgrow this very quickly. If you are a growing business, you will outgrow it very quickly. So, 3. It's got a mess. Audio is crashing. Jacob, is this any better?
Much better.
Okay. I hope this should be fine. And so, what is stage 3 then? So stage 3, we may need a data warehouse. That's one. This is an industry term we use. And so what is a data warehouse? In very, very simplistic terms, a data warehouse is essentially a black box where you are bringing data from one source or multiple sources and dumping it into it. So let's take, for example, your SAP Business One system and your Excel sheet where you are managing the budgeting and costing. You want to bring both that information and you want to put it into a data. So you're bringing that information and you put it into a data warehouse. Why is that helpful? Number one, when you report, you don't go to the source, you go to the data warehouse. So the data warehouse fundamentally is capturing a snapshot of your data. You know, how often you want to update that, but it's capturing a snapshot of your data. So all your issues or problems around the direct query technology related, that go away because you are querying a warehouse and not actually the source. I've actually even come across BI tools which, when they query the source, so say hypothetically a BI tool working off SAP Business One queries the tables, it actually slows down the source system, which is not helpful at all. I mean, you can't ask people to stop doing their work when you're building a report. But anyways, a data warehouse takes away those kind of issues of the direct, everything related to the direct query approach. So fine, you've got the data in one place. What else are the benefits here? So the other benefits are, now you've got it into one place, you can transform that data. So you can control, I want to bring only finance tables from SAP, my budgeting and forecasting Excel sheet, combine those tables, bring it into the data, transform it into the data warehouse, and then get it onto the reporting tool. So it's essentially your full control from collecting data, how much you are collecting, what you are collecting, transforming it into something meaningful, and then pushing it out. And when you push it out, you either push it out, in the form of a view or a data set or a cube, dimension, measure, whatever you want to call it. And then you're putting it onto a reporting tool. And that reporting tool fundamentally even could be Excel. But what you've done here is you basically put some kind of a middle piece in between where you suddenly control everything that comes in and comes out from it and in what format. And once you have that, what you then have is the option to make that information self-service on the reporting side, because now you trust what you've got in it, you trust what's transformed from it, and you trust what's going out and to who. And once that happens, then the landscape actually eventually becomes scalable, because then it's not about people. Now, once you've set it up, it's about the self-service element of people being able to use everything for what they want to do. So essentially, a slightly longer explanation, but essentially what we're saying is that, again, with bringing all my business data and dumping it into a data warehouse, okay, where The data warehouse is essentially, and then you have a BI tool or a business tool working off the data warehouse, which can cover self-service reporting. And that's where the scalability of any reporting landscape comes. Can you trust the information you have and give it out to the wider business to build whatever report they want? That's what makes it self-service. Self-service is not, I'll hire a reporting person and I will tell him, or the business can tell this individual what to build. That is not self-service. That is actually a people-driven process. There's still a few problems with this, and this is what ZAP tries to actually help with the way we work with SAP Business One. But fundamentally, data warehouse is great. It works. There are a couple of problems. Just remember, you can build a data warehouse on your own. There are loads of tools out there. If you're on SAP Business One with the SQL, servers, familiar with the Microsoft landscape, you can build it on your own. You need the collection element with SSIS. You've got SMS, the SSAS on the Cube side, and Power BI is quite popular today, or SSRS if you're familiar with that. You can have that journey, which is making that journey very easy from our proprietary technology. So the intention is right, but the skill set required can be a little bit hard to find. Still fundamentally a bit more people-driven, but if you have that in place in your business, you can build something like this on your own. The other issue is, you're building something with 4 or 5 tools. It's hanging together. How do you maintain all of that? How do you maintain it when, say, you upgrade your SAP Business One system? How does that affect my data warehouse? And from the data warehouse, my reports are running off my data warehouse. Those are the kind of things you need to think about. But fundamentally, having a data warehouse as this middle piece between your sources of information, be it your ERP, Excel, CRM, HR, and so on and so forth, and your output towards a reporting solution, that piece gives you the possibility of a scalable reporting solution. So if I talk that in context of ZAP, how does ZAP actually work? How does ZAP deliver on this? So the first step on the, and we call it data management and BI tool, end-to-end solution data management. Data management is where data warehouse is. But what are the elements that are involved in data management? So the first element is the integration. And when I say integration, it is how do I connect and collect and bring the data into my staging area. So in terms of SAP Business One, we've already built certain connectors. We've actually built a full-blown solution. But for argument's sake, for the first level, let's say it's a connector. And what it means is we get some credentials from you, we put it into our system, and it pulls all the data. So it'll pull all your tables, metadata, customizations, and so on and so on. If you have any other BI tool in that context, essentially this pre-connector is not available. So you have to build the connector or bring the data out in some format, whichever way SAP Business One will allow you to do that. The second level of the data management piece of the data warehouse is modeling. I've connected, now I've got the data. How do I model it and transform it, which I can use for analytics? And that modeling this is where you're building the data warehouse as well. But essentially the model that you're trying to build is a data set of all the tables that you bring into the data warehouse. Now, I will show you in ZAP step by step these elements, so hopefully it will become a little more clearer. But fundamentally, it is integration, bring the data, modeling, transformation of that data into something that is meaningful, and more importantly, compatible with your BI tool. In a normal BI, in comparison, it will again be a manual project. The third element is, and this is something that is missed quite often, is the governance part. And this is part of your data management as well. So your integration, modeling, then it's about governance. Because remember, you've got that middle piece. How do I govern that middle piece so I can start trusting it? And then whatever goes out, I can say, yes, this can be self-serviced. Here you go, my business. These is the data set. Go ahead and build whatever report you want. Or let's build analysis together, because that's what you want them to do. You want them to do the analysis on the data rather than prepare the data before they can analyze any of that data. So that's where the governance element comes in. And the trust part is A, on the data source side, what am I bringing and how often am I bringing. On the output side from the middle piece, which is a cube, a view, a data set, a measure, a dimension, whatever you want to call it, how do I control what it is? How do I control it is correct? And once it is correct, how do I make it available? And who is it? So, for example, something we come across quite often is sales territory by salesperson report. Loads of times, very simple report. And you want your salespeople to see only their custom data, but you want the manager to see everything. How do you control that? And that's where the governance piece comes in. In terms of other BI tools, again, that element would be a manual project. Why are we doing all of this? Of course, analytics, and this is where we've built certain pre-built analytics for you. We're not saying this is the be all end all. In fact, we genuinely believe there is actually, unfortunately or fortunately, no end to reporting, because reporting requirements keep changing, keep getting enhanced, because people, once they start interrogating their data, once they start learning how to interrogate their data, they want to interrogate it more. They want to interrogate it in different ways. They want to publish it in different ways. You want to view information in different ways. I was recently on a very interesting presentation, and it was one of the consultants was presenting, and it was about how do I find meaning from my report in terms of data, and it was very simple. It was like a black screen, and a number 5 appeared on the screen. It was like, right, 5 is contextual, 5 is a number. If I make it red, amber, or green, it gives me more context. 5 red is not good, 5 green is very good. If I put a percentage against it, maybe it means more context. If I put last year information, last month information, last quarter information against it and do a comparison, it makes more sense and gives me more context. And the whole purpose of that presentation was all about giving context. And that's what reporting is. Once you have a scalable solution, once you have a solution which can be self-service, people will be able to do this, then reporting kind of is, there is no end game, because you want to integrate it further. You want to make better decisions. You want to be more focused, and you want to be more proactive. And you only do that by going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and analyzing more and more with your data. So with that, I want to come outside of this presentation, that screen, and pull it out onto the web screen. Jacob, can you still screen my screen? If you can confirm, please.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So what I want to do here is I want to now give you the context of that scalable piece, those 3 elements of the data management, the element of the analytics, and how is that scalable and how it all hangs together. And I'm just using ZAP as a tool in context of that. So this is ZAP. This is all web-based. I'm using Chrome. You can use any browser. It's all HTML5-based, so it resizes to the screen. On the analytics side, you can view it on tablets, smartphones, and so on. So in terms of connections and solutions, we've got loads of solutions, but fundamentally, we either have it connected to one of these applications, e-commerce, ERP, CRM are some of the popular ones we work with, or we've built full-blown solutions for vendors. We work with Sage, Microsoft, Syspro, and SAP. But if you're unable to bring the data, we bring it either through the database or through the files. That's how we connect and bring the data. One thing fundamentally to understand, we're a relational modeling system, so we work with structured and semi-structured data. We don't do unstructured data. So we work with that kind of stuff. It's all about transactional systems, not operational reporting, BI level reporting from those transactions. Okay, so how does the journey look like? So I've made a claim, we connect, and we've already pre-built stuff for SAP Business One. So how does this actually look like? So in the case of SAP Business One, we support from versions 9 and above, and we fundamentally work with core modules and so on. So the first step to build a model, and I'm showing you the back-end side, is essentially to deploy this. And what that deployment actually does is it asks you a few questions around the connection. This is the most technical it'll get. Fundamentally, it's built on SQL, so it's all Microsoft stack, but we've tried to make it intuitive, point and click, drag and drop, that kind of stuff. But if you have SQL skills and if you want to use SQL or calculations, you can use that. That is not a problem. So essentially, that's all it is. We put a gateway on your service to extract data. From that, we need a user credential. So usually the user has the authentication, and from that, it'll bring the database. We test the connection, and that's it. You're ready to go. That's the most technical it'll be. Now, if I get out of here, I have pre-built one for you, and I will just demonstrate what comes out as a first draft when you make the connection. So I've connected to the SAP system. The system is probably 4 times my data warehouse, but you're looking at a quarter of a GB and stuff like that. Minimal data, but I'm giving you context. Yeah. So this is the first point you'll see from a data management system. Okay. What are we checking here is we're talking about. I'm going to talk about the first part of data management, which is integration. So if I open the source, if I click on SAP Business One, that's the first thing you'll get, which is open the connection details. So I've made the connection. This is my gateway. Those are my credentials. Tested the connection. And what happens next? This is what happens. I get access to all the tables, all the metadata behind those tables, and any customizations. So if I scroll down, if you can see my scroller on the right-hand side, it brings everything. I mean, there's probably 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 tables in SAP Business One, but it will bring in everything, all the tables. And this is your staging area. I've not built the warehouse yet. But if I come out of here and go back here, what it actually does is it connects and brings those 3,000 odd tables in the staging area. And from those 3,000 odd tables, it formulates a core data warehouse with 84 pipelines. So a pipeline fundamentally is a table in a data warehouse. So what we call tables in your ERP system, we call pipelines in the data warehouse. So as you can see, all those cryptic names, they go away. There is all this running commentary going on with actual English names, which helps people. So for instance, if I go to finance module, those are all the tables that you have already transformed, which is rows here. Those are the key ones, which has got most data. What are we doing here? We're doing 2 things. Number one, we're building you a core model. We are not claiming this is the be-all, end-all for your reporting. What we are claiming is this will give you a huge head start at 70, 80, 90% of the way to go on that journey of that scalability reporting. That's what we are claiming. What we've done here is we've connected and we've identified 4 tables which have information around your finance, inventory, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. But fundamentally, it is header and line information from those core modules, which I can use to build my reports. So a head start to build my reports, be it sales, purchasing, and so on and so forth. And I'll show you on the cube. So that's the first part. From those 3,000, I've identified 84, and I've transformed those 84 tables. First transformation is obviously converting it into plain English. If I go into this, quite a few steps. So let me start from the beginning. So this is the source. I can put in filters. I can only bring in these many companies. If you have multiple companies, you can do that. You can have a global date filter enabled or disabled around the posting dates and stuff. Then what do you get? Initial. On the left-hand side, the in column are the actual column names that you get. To be fair, SAP Business One is reasonably clean, but we transform it further and we call it what we require in the information. And there are a few things we also do further. You do primary and foreign key assignment. We do lookups. We create calculations. And you can see the calculation on here. And this is where the SQL expression works. But if it's something you not agree with, you can change it, no problem. We create lookups, which we use. And if I go to an element, say common account type, and it uses information of once you are on a column, then you decide whether I want to bring it into my data set or not. This is where you do that as a measure or an attribute. And it explains, it's got running commentary everywhere, and it explains what it is and how it is and so on. But that's what you do. So I'm bringing this into my queue, which is identified by that sign. We also do currency conversion. And how do we manage currency conversions around it? Come out from there. We do that. We also have, if I use this, GL amount, that's a measure. I created a calculation. That's the SQL expression of that calculation, and I've marked it as a measure. If you want, you can preview information. So it will give you for that all the columns which are available. What that does quite quickly is it checks your columns, and if there's data below a certain level, it won't bring that column into the warehouse initially. You are making a very optimized data warehouse, an optimized data set, which can process data very, very, very quickly. I mean, if you compare us to a direct query tool, we like milliseconds, and a direct query tool will be multiple seconds or even sometimes usually minutes or multiple minutes. That's how the difference is. But that's because of the fundamentals of the technology. It's got nothing to do with the reporting tool. The fundamentals of the technology, and that's why it works. What else you can do? You can create lookups. You can create calculations. Now, what else you can do? You can create relationships. So we've already pre-built relationships between those tables and other tables, relationship between the enum elements. I know it can be tricky with SAP Business One. You can create hierarchies, and we have these on the customer side. You can create indexes as well. But that's the level of what we've created. One thing interesting as well, if suppose, probably Shore or Part Shore, quite a few of you might use BOEM or B1UP usability pack on your SAP Business One system. And what that means is it very easily allows you to create extra fields on your entity screens, being your columns. So because we connect and bring everything, we bring every table. And if you want to bring it into the cube, you just click and process at the bottom, apply, and it will bring it in. That makes sense. So that's the second level of transformation. We've got the table. We come out from here. Just call this. We've got the connection, 3,000 tables. From that connection, we've built the pipelines. We've transformed the individual pipelines. We've done some work on those individual pipelines. We've created from 84, 260 odd relationships between those pipelines. So if suppose I went into sales order, and it'll tell me sales order, how is it connected to different areas within the system, and so on and so forth. So those three elements is about your integration and your modeling. So you are building the data warehouse. Well, the data warehouse kind of automatically builds, but you're building that cube of that data warehouse. So that's the modeling part. And if I go to a analysis report, this is fundamentally the output from your data warehouse. This is what you get. This is the cube when I talk about dimensions and measures. And this is what is important. This data set you can now control. How do you control it? If I go back here, there are a few ways you control it. Number one, you've got process configuration. What that means is you can control how often you want to bring data. So this could be all pipelines, i.e. all 84, or I can say only my sales pipelines. And then you can control how often you want to bring it. Quick refresh, schedule, daily, or interval, every 15 minutes, every 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. If somebody tells you for BI to be real time at a very fundamental level, you need a lot of processing power in your infrastructure. And that's why we talk about near real time. And that near real time could be 1 minute, sub 1 minute, and so on and so forth. But actually, businesses don't need data every minute. Businesses, well, a lot of our customers work off data 1 day old, but when they are in busy periods, month ends and stuff, they run configurations where every 15 minutes the sales order lines are updated. Every 5 minutes they're updated during month end periods, so on and so forth. So that's your process configuration on how often you want to bring the data. Excuse me. That's that part. The other part is the roles where you are considering who sees my data. Now, this is the output side of it. And if I assume an individual, you essentially can connect to a provider, but the key part is how do you limit your data? And this is where you choose your cube to limit your data, and you can, limit it by company or customers and so on and so forth. So that's the second level of it. So let me just go back here and onto this presentation. So where am I? I've done the connection. I've built the model. I've seen the cube. I've shown you a few elements on the governance side. I'm just conscious of time. I just want to spend 5 minutes on the analytics that you get out of the box. So if I go back here, close this option. In very simplistic terms, if you want to build a report, screen again. If you want to build a report, simple thing is I go to my sales order. Give an example. I take amount. I take cost of sales. That should be my sales invoice. Cost of sales. And I refresh it. And as a dimension, I want to do it, let's say, by company. If I open it up, it'll show me a hierarchy in the company as I've got two companies. Basic demo data from SAP Business One, as you know. But if I remove it and then I say, I want to do customer, and then you're like, great, I'll use geography here. That's the hierarchy I've created. So you can have that. And then United Kingdom, who are the customers, leads, well, it's going geography-wise completely. That's the data I have. But say this is not appropriate and I want to actually do it by customer group. Maybe I've created some stacked groups, where it is large customer, high tech, and so on, and how the data splits. How do I create a chart? Click on a chart, it creates that, and then you can, design the chart and so on and so forth. Just to give you a perspective. But what's happened is here, I've been given access to just this part. That's what you need to understand. The report designers, report creators, the self-service element is this. If I can control what I give access to you, then I should be comfortable in terms of trusting what I'm using to build the data, build report. At least I know the data is correct. The information is correct. Whether your report is correct or not, that is secondary. But at least the information on that report is going to be correct. And that's what makes it self-service. That's what makes it a highly scalable report. So very quickly, just want to cover a few out-of-the-box reports that come out for our SAP B1 solution before I open up to questions. So again, I've got, we start at the highest level. You've got your chief CFO dashboard. You can use companies. I've only got the dummy data, so 2 companies, but you can have multi-companies. We do multi-company, multiple databases with respect to SAP Business One. You can have date field, slicer, work off what dates you want to work off. How this is structured is you've got the P&L on the left, you've got cash flow in the center, and you've got balance sheet on your right. So essentially, like for this, for instance, this is gross margin over time. This is operating profit over time. You can double click. You can come down from a month to an individual date. You can have drill throughs, which means you move from one dashboard to another or a detailed report, and you can do those connections. So I'm working off a gross margin report, and I've actually gone into a P&L report. So, and these structures we create, and you've got comparisons here, you've got the actuals, you've got a budget coming in, you've got variance, and so on and so forth, month to date, year to date. When somebody is building a report like this, it should not matter to them where is my source of data is coming, as long as you created that source link through the data warehouse. Because what they are only going to use, and if I can show you this is cut, but what I'm trying to say is these elements, the budget could actually have come from an Excel sheet, the actual coming from SAP Business One, and you creating this report. Anyways, in a report, you've got some dashboards working across. You want to click on an information and check, and you get a drill through as well. and we can further have a drill through into where these elements are hyperlinked, this information, and you actually click on it, and it takes you to the actual source of the information in SAP Business One. That can happen as well. So that's the example of drill throughs, moving from one information to another. If I look at multiple other dashboards, I quite like this one where that was P&L. This is an expense dashboard. I am showing off a little bit. It shows you trends as well with information in table format. And again, your drill through experience is still, control. You can control which columns you want to see and so on and so forth. If I come back from here, in terms of AR, I have got an accounts receivable dashboard, which again drills through from that value. You come to here, and these are kind of best practices on BI. You want to start with the highest level you can and the simplest level you can, and then drill down into something more, and then drill down into something more, and then drill down into something more. It should never be, let's get a TB and build a report and we'll do that. That should never happen. That is not BI fundamentally. So, AR, essentially you've got your open AR average days, and a lot of these you'll have running commentary on them as well, appearing for me. But running commentary in terms of how these calculations are created. You'll have expressions, the use of colors in terms to very quickly define what is the size of it. You drag your mouse to it, it'll tell you the balance, and so on and so forth. It'll give you then drill downs on the same place. What are we trying to show here is drill down to a high level BI report, but also a transactional level row and column time report. Who are your top 10 elements and so on and so forth. Important things to note. The world of BI should give you focus, prioritization as soon as possible. If a report is not giving you, you failed in that report. And that's how we think. That's what best practice is. I want to identify the anomalies for you, not what is normal, the anomalies for you as quickly as possible so you can make that decision. Okay. So yeah, in terms of analytics, the loads here, I can look at sales, say VP sales dashboard. We've got, different flavor to these. I quite like these bubble charts, which if I hover over them, it'll give me, what's the sales amount, what's my contribution margin and invoice quantity, and the size of the bubble gives me an inference to it, and so on and so forth. So I like information like that. I like information like this. Your target is this. This was your last year. This was your last quarter, and this is where you are with respect to quarter. So very quickly giving you information which you can actionable information which you can prioritize, and so on. And so yeah, I'm just conscious of time, and from my webinar perspective, I would like to close and see if there are any questions in the chat screen. Jacob, can you see any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, let's wait then. And whilst people are doing that, if I go back here, just to complete the journey for you, essentially the integration, the modeling, governance, why we're doing this analytics, and this is what fundamentally it is. You've got your sources of data, you've got SAP in between, the data warehouse, the data management tool, and then your BI. SAP can do the full work, the data management plus BI, or SAP can push it out to popular BI tools. As of today, we have our own BI tool, but we work with Power BI and Tableau, and we've got customers on Power BI and Tableau using that as well. So we are complementary to BI tools. We're not competing with BI tools. What we are doing is making work self-service from a reporting perspective. That is what we're trying to solve. Okay. So just come out from here, just waiting if there are any questions. Should I stop sharing now?
It's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, just waiting if anyone has any questions ready. Okay. I mean, I couldn't see any questions, but what I can suggest is the webinar is getting recorded. So I'm sure Jacob will be sharing it with you guys. That is my email address. That's my phone number. If you guys want to reach out, any questions, anything you want to talk about, what you're doing in your business and what it's working on, I'm more than happy to share my experience or experiences of the customers we work with, and yeah, help you out where we can.
Okay, thank you, Rohit. And I hope everyone enjoyed this webinar. The recording will be available within the next couple of days on our website. And I hope everyone has a lovely afternoon.
Great. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time. Have a nice evening. Cheers. Bye.